Style isn't something that you choose, it chooses you. Much like the sentient poncho that has been beckoning from the vintage store window. But with guitar and music, you actually do have a little bit of a say in your own style. So today we're doing one chord progression, the most common chord progression. C, G, A minor, F. This is a 1, 5, 6, 4 in the key of C. We're gonna do this in 5 different styles, okay? Now, I am actually enlisting the help of a sponsor, TrueFire, because you can learn basically any style. I have a very surface level knowledge of a lot of these styles, but I will be sharing what I learned in a very quick precursor because they have a huge sale going on, which we'll talk more about in a second. But let's talk about style number 1. This is gonna be the basic open mic style, okay? So C major, G major, A minor, F major. But I do want to talk a little bit about a quick tip that you can do. You probably already know these chords. We're gonna have your pointer finger on the first fret. Why am I on the bridge pickup? Neck pickup. So first fret on the B string, okay? To make your C major. Now, 3A, 2D, open G, 1B. If you don't know how to make a C major like that, you should definitely sign up for TrueFire right now. But basically, your pointer finger is going to be locked here to this first fret on the B string the entire time. So when you go from a C to a G, just move your ring finger and your middle finger a string lower, and then drop your pinky on the third fret of the B string, right? So C to G instead of C to G. It just makes everything easier, and then by the time you get to the 6th chord in this key, A minor, open 2 2 1 in the middle 4 strings, and then F 3 3 2 1. So much easier. 1 5 6 4. Okay, cool. So we'll count that as a style. Like I said, open mic, pop style, or whatever. Now let's get right into the good stuff. Sean Daniels style, which is kind of jazzier style, but basically it is tracking extended chords along the middle 4 strings, okay? So a good example of how this would sound would be like this. Okay, so same chord progression, but now we have slightly different chords. Same root note for everyone. So instead of C major, we've got C major, 7. Okay, so again, all of this is going to be on the middle 4 strings, A, D, G, and B. We're just kind of tracking all the way along for this. Don't have to worry about the outside E strings. So I like this style because I can just use my fingers. A lot of my style is like finger style. So I've got my thumb on the E string, and then my other fingers pulling up into the D, G, and B strings. And these voicings work quite nicely because you can keep the shape intact the entire time. So 3, 5, 4, 5, okay? And we're gonna slide this all the way to the 10th fret, and then you just lift your middle finger up, and then now you have a G7, okay? So extended chords, meaning it's usually 7th chords, right? So C major 7 to G7. In fact, what I'll do is instead of just lifting my middle finger up, I'll kind of place it on top of my pointer finger to help me hold down, kind of pinch and bar that, because sometimes it can be tough to get tone from that G string right there. 2 frets higher, again, from the 5 to the 6th chord, we have A minor 7. And then right here, I always like to play a minor 7 like little hammer-on action. Like that. So I'm barring the 12th fret, and I'm hammering down ring finger, 12 to 14, and then middle finger, 12 to 13 on the D and B strings. If you want to get crazy, get into that high E string territory, we're going to go to the 15th fret and then open up. We're going to talk more about that later in a different style, actually. And then we're going to take that shape all the way back to the 8th fret on the A string. And there's our 4 chord, F major 7, C major 7, G7, A minor 7, F major 7, as compared to C, G, A. The cool thing is you can kind of mix and match parts of these different styles into each other, and it still is cohesive enough as long as you keep the rhythm the same. But for the next style, I want to do a Bosanova style, okay? So this is going to be a super a super fun one for me to play. And this is why I really like TrueFire. In fact, let's look at the TrueFire interface because they have like such a good deal going on. So they're doing their summer launch party and it is 60% off all access, $99 for the entire year. You get a free gift. And they also offer up to 50% off on courses. This is valid only for this week only. So check this out. Last time I used this, I took the Keb Mo course. He's probably like my favorite living guitar player. And it's so awesome he has like a whole course on there. So the fact that you can get a discount on that course is like amazing. But even just for different styles and genres, like if you go to the TrueFire website, type in Bosanova, which is something that I've been meaning to get a lot better at. They have all these courses on Bosanova, and they're just rated. There's so much different stuff. You can do this for pretty much any genre, right? So Bosanova is something that I really want to get better at myself. And one thing that I've learned just from taking like a half hour of these courses is a little bit about the rhythms and the chord voicings. So the next style is going to be Bosanova style. All right. Now we're going to do the same thing, same chord progression: C, G, A minor, F, but in more of a Bosanova style, okay? So check this out. So the 8th fret on the E string is your C, okay? And what we're gonna do is we're gonna make this kind of like C major 6, where your pointer finger is on the 7th fret of the D string, and your pinky is on the 9th fret of the G string. And then now your thumb and your fingers are kind of alternating to kind of get that Bosanova rhythm down. Now this rhythm right here, all I'm doing is I'm alternating 7 and 9 on the D and G string with 7 and 7 on the D and G string. So, in fact, if you just learn one kind of like MIDI pattern, root, chord, root, root, chord, root, chord, root, root, chord. If you've never done Bosanova style before, that's like a very basic pattern that you can kind of use for this kind of thing. I'm going to play it more like this. Those things that you can kind of just feel better than you can count in my experience, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. It's harder for me to count out loud. Usually that's how I teach myself chord progressions, but that's why I'm so intrigued by the Bosanova stuff, is because it is more of like a feel that you develop between, like your thumb and your fingers. Then I'm gonna go to this, which is so, I love this. This is, so we'll call this C major 6 if we want. We're gonna go to G13, which is 3 on the E string, 3 on the D string, 4 on the G string, 5 on the B string. Now, a kind of cheater way to do this is to do this, where you actually bar the 3rd fret and then just use your ring finger and your pinky here. And then we're gonna swap this out with G minor 7. So this is like a minor 5 chord, is what we would call this. Minor 5 chord is a trick that kind of shows up in Bosanova a good amount, which is probably my favorite thing about it. So we've got C, G13. Okay, so there's our 1 to 5 chord. Now we got to go to 6. So we're going to take this A minor 11 shape. That's the name of this chord. So again, A minor 7 would be 5 on the E string, 5 on the D string, 5 on the G string. You can add the 11 to get 3 on the B string. The cool thing about this is now we can open up the E string, right? So 5, E, open E. So just go back and forth. This is actually a good chord to kind of maybe just practice that back and forth. Even if you palm mute it up a little bit. Then we're going to go to like a F 6/9 for the next one. So, really cool chord progression. 8 on the A string, 7, 7, D and G, 8 on the B string. And now this is our F, our 4 chord. And now I'm gonna alternate between the F on the A string and the C on the E string. back where you started. I also think, especially on an electric guitar, it sounds kind of cool when you palm mute it. Absolutely in love with Bosanova. It's just the absolute best. Huge, huge fan. All right, next one we're gonna do is we're gonna do funk, okay? Not a funk player, but the really cool thing about that is it's a percussive style playing that is relentless, and the chord voicings are all in the higher register, right? So let's talk about doing a C major in more of like a funk register. First thing I always think of. So one thing that I do as a fake funk player is I will hold the D string with my thumb and then use my pointer finger to kind of get that sound where I'm like trying to coordinate my pointer finger with how I'm holding down the pressure with my left hand. You can get a lot more attack with a pick. And I think that attack is probably more of the sound, but just for the purpose of this video, I want to just show this because I think it kind of has the chord voicings ring out a little bit more. So the C major here is just a D major shape, but on the 13th fret, okay? Now, what we're gonna do is we're gonna alternate between this and this. In fact, I'm actually gonna go right here, 12, 13, 15, so it's a G, a C, and a G. And then from here, I'm just gonna lift up and go here. And this is gonna be our G chord, okay? So 12, 12, 15. And then if we wanna switch that out with 15 to 13, it goes from G to G7. So again, C, G, G7, A minor. A minor is really easy because we're thinking of that shape we used earlier. Now this is 12, 13, 14. And then for F, we have options. We can actually just add your pinky if you want to get that D string. I think what's probably more appropriate, what I've heard more is this triad right here. 13, 13, 14. Also, arriving is kind of like a slinky, funky type sound. So we've got our C, G, A minor, F. So again, that's like a really cool, easy kind of pattern that you could do. That really is something that I think is very signature to that genre, just from a in my mind's eye. I don't really think of these chord voicings if I'm playing other genres, but like, oh, I want just something on top to kind of float around and, you know, kind of make it spanky. And then just kind of have that relentless style vibe just going at it. I always think that, like, you know, funk stuff is the way to go. So the fifth style is just going to be, this is an interesting style. It's almost like a cheater trick, okay? What we're going to do is we're going to go into drop D, all right? So I'm going to have that D string, and then I'm going to down tune. Okay? So what happens now is we can actually play the same chord progression, but based on, I always like to think of where my power chords are first, right? So if I'm playing like a C major power chord, it would look like this. But now since I've detuned, it would be just the 10th fret. Okay, so now this is my C, and then if I'm going 1, 5, I would go from the 10th fret to the 5th fret. So now this is my G. And then the 6th chord is always 2 frets higher than the 5 chord. So now I'm 7, and then the 4 chord is always either 4 frets back or 2 frets slower than the 5 chord, however you want to look at it. So we've got 10, 5, 7, 3. And then depending on really the effects you're using and stuff like that, you could do it. We could do it super heavy. Like, let me find like a more distorted guitar tone. And again, again, it sounds great because it's just the same thing. But now you're just tracking. Use one finger. Kind of look ahead and be like, all right, I know I'm going back. So maybe I do this with my pinky or ring finger to kind of buy my hand time. But it's all gravy and it sounds great. And again, you can learn way more in depth. I'm just teaching surface level ways and playing the same chord progression in different ways. But any kind of style that you'd want to learn, TrueFire definitely has some kind of course you could take. So I would highly recommend just giving it a shot. I'll have a affiliate link in the description if you guys are interested. Like I said, this would be the week to do it because it's the biggest sale that they have all year. So I think it's worth taking a flyer on if you're interested in maybe expanding your repertoire and your style and vocabulary. So thank you then for sponsoring the video. Let me know if you have any questions or if you have any suggestions on which style you think would fit my playing more that I should investigate. I really wanted to get more into Bosanova this summer. I feel like Bosanova is like the perfect kind of summer vibe. So that's going to be what I'm learning on TrueFire. Let me know what you think, and I will talk to you guys soon.